UCLA is a university with unlimited possibilities for students that desire world-class academics and research, unmatched diversity, incredible cultural and social opportunities, successful alumni and career networking, first-class campus facilities, plus America's top intercollegiate sports teams. Located in Westwood, just a few miles from the Pacific Ocean, UCLA's 1 square mile campus is surrounded by famous cities such as Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, and Santa Monica.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Westwood for another edition of UCLA Bruin Talk. I'm alongside Allison Taylor. I'm Dave Marcus, and I'm happy to be with you as we've got a great show for you today.
Before we meet our first guest, let's take a look at the upcoming events.
One of UCLA's most outstanding programs is track and field, and we've got a couple of very special athletes to meet today. Mike Woepse just won the pole vault in the opening Husky Invitational at Washington, and Kylie Price just won the 60-meter dash and the long jump. What a start to your season. Congratulations to both of you. Kylie, you got the double. That's got to be a great way to start your year.
Yes, I was actually surprised that I won both, but I was very glad, and I thought I had a great start to my season, and my times and my jump were pretty good for the beginning of the season.
And Mike, winning the pole vault in the first time out, that's got to be a great way for you to get going.
Yeah, it was a good way to start. It was a pretty good competition, so I was glad to just get out of it with a win and get a good mark for the early season. But I guess I got to pick up another event since Kylie's winning too.
Well, the early season is so interesting because you start in the indoor, not until March that you get to go out in the sunshine. How different is it, Mike, to vault inside as opposed to being outside?
It's not too bad. It actually just takes the variable of wind out of outdoors, and so outdoors wind can be either an advantage or a disadvantage depending on which way it's blowing. So it kind of just takes that aspect out of it and makes it more about just kind of executing the jump in a neutral environment. So it's fun. It's about the same, but maybe a little easier. So.
And Kylie, your event is different. That 100-meter dash becomes a 60-meter indoors. You got to start fast and you got to stop fast, don't you?
Yes. Actually, I like the 60 because the first part of my race is better than my last part of my race. So the 60 is really easy to me. It's better than the 100, so it's like really quick. You gotta get out, you gotta like finish, but I really like it more than the 100, I would say.
Mike, we were just talking about how the variables of being outside can hinder your performance maybe, but we were talking before the show that you guys are going up to New Mexico for a competition, and you were actually telling us that the altitude can have an effect on, and you too, Kylie, can have an effect on both of your events. So tell us a little bit about how that can affect you.
It's at a higher altitude, so it's at altitude, so I guess it's thinner air. So when you're going through the air and when you're running, you're moving faster and there's less resistance. So I had my highest jump last year indoors at this meet, so I'm feeling good and hopefully going to do well at this next one.
What about you, Kylie? You said you have to start fast and you have to finish fast in the 60-meter, but if you're flying even faster through the air, you're going to have to be more aware of where you're at.
Yes. This will be my first time here at New Mexico, so Coach Bolden had told me this should be a really good meet for me because it's the high altitude makes you run a little faster, so I really want to drop my time there, so hopefully I will with the fastness.
Now this is really a family affair. Kylie, you've got a family who's got long roots with UCLA. Your dad, Dennis, played football here. Your brother, Sheldon, starting cornerback on the football team. Was that your pathway to UCLA?
No, well, I had 3 schools that I narrowed down to choose, and UCLA was just the right fit for me. And coincidentally, my dad and my brother went here, so I just think I just continued with the family, and I liked that I went here too.
Mike, a lot of pole vaulters in your family that were Bruins. Your brother Greg, your sister Elizabeth, and you've got a brother on the water polo team. Tell us your pathway to Westwood.
It was about the same. I wasn't ever pushed into becoming a Bruin, but it's what I always wanted to be. And so when it came down to recruiting, it was always my #1 choice. And when I had the option to come here, I absolutely jumped at it. And then it was really exciting when my younger brother Pat signed with UCLA, because now we have a couple overlapping years, and he's loving it. So it's been great.
Mike, we were talking also before the show about how the indoor season ends in March, and then you pick right back up with the outdoor season, and it ends in June, and like you said, hopefully July, August if you go on to be more successful. But how do you keep your body healthy for that amount of time? That's a long season. It's over half of the year.
Yeah, our coaches do a great job of writing up the right workouts for us to do throughout the year. We put in a lot of work in the off season to make sure that we have a firm base, a solid base that we can build on, and then they just keep us tapering throughout the year. They never let us get too tired, and they never let us rest too much until it's time for NCAAs and the big meets. So that's mainly on the coaches, and they do a phenomenal job of making sure that we stay healthy and get ready.
You're both in field events that require a lot of speed, and the trick is translating that forward motion into upward motion, both in the pole vault and in the long jump. How important is developing your speed, Mike, to being a pole vaulter?
Luckily in the pole vault we can make up with some mistakes in the runway, in the air, and the long jump I think it's a little more important, but it's definitely an aspect that we need to focus on.
And Kylie, you got to hit that board, and you just want to hit it right. You got to work on that a lot, don't you?
Yes, I take nine left steps to get to the board, so I always count my steps, so every time it's the same, so I can hit the board at the same time. You really have to be consistent with your speed so you don't like mess it up or mess up your steps. So it's really hard, but once you get your mark, you're ready to go.
Kylie, Mike was joking earlier that he needed to pick up an extra event to keep up with you. But tell us a little bit about how difficult or easy maybe it is for you to have to focus on training multiple events where Mike can just go to practice and focus on one thing. How do you handle 2 or more?
Well, at practice on Mondays and Fridays, I work out with the sprinters, and on Saturdays, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll do jump practice. So it's pretty balanced evenly. And at the track meets, it gets a little hard because some events conflict with other events, so it's a little stressful kind of trying to focus on one, but I have another one. But it's pretty, I've gotten used to it now.
In both of these events, a lot of times you see the long jumper or the vaulter on the end of the runway, just mentally getting ready, rocking back and forth sometimes. What's in your head, Kylie, when you're deciding when you're going to go?
Well, I just try to calm myself down. I just think, like, just run and jump, do what you came to do what you know how to do, and I just take off from there.
Mike, I was a high jumper a long time ago in high school. I know the feeling of first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. Mentally, how do you approach the difference, the first attempt at a height, and second attempt, and then the make or break third attempt?
Well, the pressure definitely builds, and so when you get to that second and third attempt, especially the third attempt, the most important thing is just like Kylie said, you got to be focused and you got to relax, and then usually I just think about the thing I need to do to execute to make the jump. You can try and will it, but the best thing to do is just focus on one thing to do and make sure you execute that, and usually if you do, you'll be in a good spot.
Kylie, the Pac-12 is incredibly competitive within track and field. There are so many teams that are there in the top 25, and there are so many other teams that are vying for spots in that top 25. What's it like to compete in such a competitive conference?
It's pretty crazy, but I like it because it helps me do better as an athlete for myself. It'll push me to run faster, jump further, so I really like that my conference is competitive because it helps me.
Mike, we were talking about the long season, and it starts now with indoor, and then you go outdoor, and I mean, if you're hoping it's going all the way to July. Is there a point that you're looking toward where you try to peak, or are you just trying to do your best jump every time out? Are there times when you kind of hold back knowing how long the season's going to be?
For me, no. I try every time that I compete to win and to jump as high as I possibly can. Now, the training that goes into that week's, like New Mexico this week is a big meet for us. It's at altitude. It's a really good opportunity for us to jump high. So our coaches have tapered our training a little bit this week. Next week, we're going to go to Fresno. It's a little bit less competitive of a meet. I'm sure the workouts will be a little more extensive, but my mindset going into the meet will be just as focused and competitive as it is this week.
Both of you, as far as I'm aware of, are not expected to graduate this year, which means you have a lot more time to succeed both in the classroom and on the track. Mike, what are some of your goals for yourself and the team in the upcoming years?
Well, just to kind of build off what we did last year. So we came in 17th outdoors last year, and our team is getting much stronger, and Coach Maynard's doing a great job of building up the program, and he's now in charge of the men's and women's programs, and so I think they're both on the rise. This year we have a very good shot at becoming the Pac-12 champions, so we're going to try and reach that goal and then being a top 5 team at nationals. And so those are the goals this year, and then next year we hope to just build off that and hopefully be winning a national championship. As far as individually, I came in 2nd last year at NCAAs, and so just hoping to move up that one spot and win.
How about you, Kylie?
Similar to what Mike said, for my team to get better, for us to drop down in our rankings, and for me to continue excelling, PRing every year and dropping down from, I got 7th last year at NCAAs, so I hope to get like 5th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, it doesn't matter. And also to excel more in my sprinting events, and also personally to continue to do well in school, get director's honor roll, and also just to graduate.
Yeah, tell us about outside of Drake Stadium. You're both really good students. Kylie, what's interesting you about the academic side of UCLA?
Well, I really like the classes I've been taking, and I thought when I first came to college that would be hard, but it's not as hard as I thought. So I just want to continue to excel and be on the director's honor roll because it means a great deal to me and my family. So I just hope to keep doing great.
And Mike, you're on the director's honor roll. You're a real good student. Tell us about your interests outside of your sport.
Well, I'm a history major, and that's been a good suit for me. I like history, and it's kept me intrigued for the last couple of years, so that's been good. And I just try and make sure I focus and do what I need to do in school so that I can do what I want to do out on the track. And things have paid off well, so I just hope to keep the same course and graduate on time and make sure I'm doing all the things right outside the track, just like on the track.
They're off to a great start, and you can follow their exploits on UCLABruins.com. Great coverage and a couple of big home meets coming up at Drake Stadium when the season moves to outdoors. Thank you both for coming in. Best of luck, and congratulations on a great start.
Thank you.
And we'll come back for more UCLA Bruin Talk right after this brief public service announcement.
A trophy can be made just about anywhere. But there's one place where champions are made. UCLA, champions meet here.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Bruin Talk. It is now time to honor our Student Athlete of the Week. This week we honor Vanessa Zamarippa of Gymnastics as our Student Athlete of the Week. In UCLA's dual meet victory over Stanford, Vanessa scored her 7th career perfect 10 on the vault. Zamarippa won the all-around with a season-high tying score of 39.675. She also won the floor and the vault to lead the 4th-ranked Bruins to a 4-0 record on the season. Congratulations, Vanessa, and good luck with the rest of the season. If you would like additional information about UCLA athletics, please visit our website at uclabruins.com.
And we are very pleased on today's edition of Bruin Talk to welcome back UCLA assistant basketball coach Scott Garson. Scott is in his 9th year on staff, 7th year as an assistant, and every time he's on, we always learn something. Coach, thanks for coming back in and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It is crunch time in the season now. The NCAAs are less than a month away, and it's starting to feel a little bit like madness. Tell us about your thoughts about the Bruins so far.
Oh yeah, well, the Super Bowl's over, so it's all about college basketball at this time of year, and that's a lot of fun for us. we have obviously we have made great strides from the beginning of the season till now. We're a much improved team, which was expected with such a team that's relying on young players like we are. Our leading scorer, obviously, Shabazz Muhammad, is a freshman. Kyle Anderson and Jordan Adams both start and play a lot of minutes. They're freshmen. Tony Parker is a backup center, is a freshman. So obviously, our expectations are that we are going to continue to improve as the year goes on. We've had our ups and we've had our downs. We've had big wins, both against Missouri, at Arizona, at Colorado, all very good teams where we've played tremendous. And then we've had other bumps in the road, which is expected with a young group. But the key is learning from it and getting better from it. And that's what we're planning on continuing to do here as we get into the second half of Pac-12
Well,
play.
you say it's expected with a young group, and I think it is. Basketball fans know that freshmen take a while to adjust, no matter how talented they are. Did Kentucky kind of poison the well last year by having such an outstanding, exceptional season with a group of freshmen that are now gone?
Yeah, you know, when I say expected, it's probably more expected from coaches and people inside the game necessarily than fans nowadays. That's because, you know, fans have seen some of the excitement that's happened in recent years with a team like Kentucky last year, playing with a lot of freshmen, and basically all freshmen and sophomores. And winning a national championship. But when you look over the course of time, that's rare and, you know, far and few between. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. And I do think that, you know, seeing that last year and trying to compare other teams to last year's Kentucky team is unfair to these kids. And, you know, again, we have very talented freshmen. They are progressing at a rate that would be probably beyond normal for freshmen. No, you know, if you go back 10, 15 years ago. But you know, nowadays we're in a situation in sports, and particularly men's basketball, where everybody's looking for everything to happen right now. And, you know, we understand that, and that's part of being at UCLA and having players of that caliber. And so our whole goal is to be playing our best basketball by the end of the season, to get into that NCAA tournament and try and make some things happen.
Well, I thought it was nice of the Pac-12 to schedule the Pac-12 tournament in Shabazz's hometown.
Oh, yeah, very nice of them. We appreciate, Shabazz appreciated the home cooking there. Yeah.
Well, you talked about earlier the big wins over Arizona and Missouri, and we were talking a little bit before the show about how, especially in men's basketball, after a big win, you're the hero, but after a loss to a not as equivalent team, maybe, you're the GOAT. How do you guys as a coaching staff handle that, and how do you teach your players to handle that kind of criticism on a daily basis?
Well, I think the key, number one, is never to get too high or too low. I mean, it's, you know, no matter what kind of victory you have, you know, there's always another game coming. No matter what kind of loss you have, there's always another game coming. You have opportunities. You can learn from your wins. You can learn from your losses. You don't want to get too high or too low. You don't want to get too overconfident when you're winning, which I think happened to us when we played Oregon at home. We'd won 10 straight games. We were coming back for a game on CBS, national TV, big game at home. And I think, you know, our group we were too excited and thinking that, hey, you know, gosh, we've made it. We're good. And, you know, anybody can beat you. And then we came back and really worked hard to get ready for Arizona. The Arizona State game was tough, obviously missing Travis Ware and to a concussion and not playing, and they had a very good center. You know, there's a lot of learning that goes on throughout a season, game to game, and you try to keep the team focused on what we're doing on a daily basis in practice, focused on studying the film and seeing where we can get better, focused on getting better each day, trying to tune out all the people around you and understand that the only people that really matter are the people in our locker room, the coaches, the players, and their own families. And that's it. I mean, you know, everybody else is going to jump on and off the bandwagon, you know, especially when you're in a place like Los Angeles where, you know, it's a lot of pro sports teams and, you know, people are used to being able to, you know, jump on and off bandwagons from time to time. And, you know that we have some very loyal fans that are there every night that are cheering us on and that are rooting for us. That's one thing. When we walk into Pauley Pavilion, we know the fans that are in the stands are cheering us on and all for us and totally behind us. And so that's a good feeling.
College is about learning. And especially your freshman year, there's so much going on outside the influences in school and all of that stuff. And it's all about getting ready for the end of the season, for tournament time. As you look at this team's progress, are you encouraged by the progress toward tournament time?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the biggest glaring weakness that we have right now is rebounding. We have to become a better rebounding team between now and the end of the season if we want to make a run. It's something we're focusing on every day in practice, but yet conversely, teams are having a hard time stopping us offensively over the course of the season. We haven't shot at our best the last two games, But prior to that, we were leading the league in field goal percentage, and we can really score the ball at a high pace. We're playing at a much faster pace this year because of the offensive weapons that we have. We cause a lot of mismatches for other teams. You know, we have trouble rebounding because we don't have a ton of size, but yet teams with size have a hard time guarding our mobile, quicker big guys like Travis Ware and David Ware, who can stretch you out there. Kyle Anderson, who's a point forward. I mean, a lot of times he's rebounding and bringing the ball up himself. So that's very difficult to match up with when you're used to guarding a 6'9" low post player.
We mentioned earlier that this is your 7th season now as an assistant coach with the Bruins, and you're heavily involved in youth basketball camps, the UCLA boys basketball camp. Why is it so important to you to be so involved in molding these young boys' basketball lives?
Well, I appreciate that question. I think it's really important to give back to the community when you're in a position that you have an opportunity to do so. The reason I personally got into coaching, and I think the majority of people get into coaching, is because you're trying to teach life lessons through the game of basketball, through sports. Basketball is such a great game because it's a team sport, and you're constantly teaching about how to work with other people, and and how to deal with your teammates, just like you're gonna have to deal with your coworkers one day or people in class. And it's a great learning environment. The kids love the game of basketball. It's such a popular game, and it's a great opportunity to have an effect on someone's life. I mean, there's nothing better than getting a note or getting a phone call or an email or something telling you, from a young person saying how much they enjoyed their experience at camp and they appreciated whatever it was that we tried to impress upon them. I hope that I know there's a lot of people that watch this show that have sent kids to camp or have come to camp before, and we run into campers all the time at both at the arena and around the community, and it's just great to see that people are involved in the game of basketball for all the right reasons.
A lot of our local viewers are going to remember back when you were a high school player at Harvard-Westlake and you were all league in 2 sports, a basketball player but also a left-handed pitcher. I thought you looked like a normal guy, but a left-handed pitcher, Scott. Tell us about how both those sports, those were Coach Wooden's favorite sports, how did both those sports influence your later career?
Well, first of all, I was very heavily influenced by my coaches in both sports. Coach Hilliard was Greg Hilliard, who is still the boys basketball coach at Harvard-Westlake right now, and Jim Brink, who was my baseball coach. And I had great experiences from them. I definitely look back at that as saying that somewhere in the back of my mind, that's partly why I got into coaching in the first place. But those sports were both, first of all, I love the competitiveness of going out there on the mound and pitching and having to battle pitch by pitch, every guy. And I wasn't someone who threw hard. My brother threw a lot harder than I did, but I threw about 7 different pitches. I had a knuckleball. I had all kinds of crap that I threw up there. But it was fun to keep guys off balance. And it was great, just all the intricacies of the game and the details that go into the game of baseball that, people that didn't play the game, tend to wonder, God, this is kind of boring. I mean, there's nothing better than, how is a guy holding the runner on first base while he's pitching to a left-handed hitter and, whatever the situation may be, in the game of baseball. And I loved all the intricacies and details of that sport. And then basketball, to me, was, again, I go back, to me, it's the ultimate team sport. I mean, you have to play with 4 other players on the court at all times. One guy can't do it himself, and you have to play both offense and defense. There's no getting out of that, So, you may be the best offensive player in the world, and if you can't guard your man, it doesn't do you any good to score 25 if you give up 30. Those were both great experiences, great influences on me. I love playing both sports. The second best thing to playing is coaching, and that's why I'm doing it. And, I had great experiences.
You have a very diverse background. You have a BA in law and your master's in exercise and sports science, which is very interesting, along with your diverse sports background, as we just talked about. But how do you think your education has helped influence how you coach your players? Well,
my master's in particular I had an emphasis in sports psychology, and that really was a great opportunity for me to learn more about the psychological aspect that goes into coaching, which is so important. As you know, through your time in gymnastics, I'm sure, as important as the physical attributes are, mentally, you are constantly fighting all kinds of things to get yourself.
More important.
In many ways it is. And my mentor at the University of Utah was Keith Henshin, who was the sports psychologist for the Utah Jazz and still does a lot, and also worked with all the university athletes there. And obviously we have Bob Korb here who works with our athletes here, and several other sports psychologists, mental trainers that are on several of the teams. I know John Spera has a sports psychologist on staff for the men's volleyball team now here in his first year. We were just talking about that the other day, and I think that's vital. I think it's getting more and more vital for kids today. as they grow up, where there's so much pressure right now on young athletes, pressure from their families, pressure from their friends and fans around. Everybody knows everybody now because of Twitter and Facebook, and everybody knows what you're doing. You're not privately going out there and playing a game or getting involved in a match or anything like that, and nobody knows who won or lost. Everybody knows if you won or lost, and everybody knows how you played. And that's a lot of pressure to handle, and I think kids need to, number one, have somebody to talk to be able to find out how to handle that pressure, and then also everybody is motivated so differently, and it's important for coaches to know. And so for me, it helps me understand that, well, maybe yelling and screaming at one guy will help motivate him. Another guy needs a hug, and needs a pick-me-up and needs some positive feedback. And you have to be sensitive to what each individual player on the team needs, as well as the team as a whole. And I think my sports psychology background has certainly helped me in those areas.
Now, back in the old days, fans and parents and others would see that kind of treatment of the athlete as an individual and say, oh, he's playing favorites. He's yelling at one guy, he's not yelling at another. But it's not something that's off the top of your head. I mean, that is something that you have planned out because you know how that individual is going to respond. No question, no question. And I think that's developing a relationship with your players too, so you can talk to them is just so important, and for them to understand where you're coming from. Are you yelling at me because you don't like me, or are you coaching me? And there's a big difference between criticism that is helpful and trying to help you coach versus oh, he's just yelling at me because he doesn't like me. And that's something that players have to understand more and more nowadays. They don't get I think that so much has been talked about my parents' generation, how much my parents loved their children so much, and the upbringing was so different. Whether some people want to call it coddled, others just want to call it really, really loved and appreciated, and that's a good thing. But in sports, there's so much competition and there's so much adversity that comes in to situations in the middle of a game, whether it's missing a free throw in a crucial moment, or making just making a mistake, turning the ball over, not quite hitting your landing, coming off the beam, or whatever it is. That's, you got to be able to handle that and keep playing and keep going and turn the page. Not play the game backwards is something that Jerry Sloan, the old Utah Jazz coach, used to talk about. But just play forward. It's all about, Coach Wooden always talked about staying in the present. There's nothing you can do about yesterday, and anything that's going to happen tomorrow is going to be affected by what you do today. And Coach Wooden, obviously, that's straight from him and his books, and that's important for athletes to understand and be able to play in that frame of mind and stay in that frame of mind. That's very, very hard to do, and it's very, very hard to learn because we're so concerned. Everybody's worried about the future. Everybody's ready to be a pro right now, tomorrow, and that you can't do anything about that. The best way to be as successful as possible in the sport that you're participating in is to do the very best you can right now, today, at practice and with what you're doing. We would love to stay in the present a little longer, but sadly we've reached the end of our time. Always glad to have you in, Coach. Thanks for joining us on Bruin Talk. Well, thank you very much for having me. And thank you for joining us on UCLA Bruin Talk. March Madness just around the corner. We can't wait. Until next time, for Allison, I'm Dave saying so long from Westwood. We'll see you next time on UCLA Bruin Talk.